We met earlier this year in May during Citrix Synergy, where you announced Workspace and the Workspace app. You promised to bring it within 90 days. Did you achieve that?
We did, across multiple platforms, which was just a great engineering effort, product effort. We committed to that. Synergy was interesting because it was the first time we'd ever everything we announced on stage was going to be committed to either that day or within 90 days. So you can imagine how much work that generates. But yeah, I think it's just a great example of how we can do things differently with cloud, how the way we've changed the organization to be more agile, to deliver. It's just a great story overall.
Okay, you mentioned cloud. I remember that Google Cloud was going to be your partner in that, and also Oracle was on the roadmap. Can you tell me something about the availability for Google and Oracle?
Yeah, they're both available. So when you think about Citrix Cloud, obviously there's lots of different services in there. The apps and desktop service, which is the one that we talked about specifically with Google and Oracle, is now available on both. So we have sets of customers who wanted to use Oracle Cloud for various reasons. Same with Google, the same with Azure, the same with AWS. We see lots of different customers choosing different cloud strategies for different reasons. But as per the promise that we made about any cloud, it's absolutely available now for the apps and desktop service. We have a huge strategy around analytics, not just around security, which is obviously what we talked about at Synergy a lot, because we feel that's important from where we see the end user being. Right? And when I say being, it's traditional security is focused on all sorts of different things, devices, network points. We just felt that following the user would give us a little bit more visibility into what truly happens within the construct of the workspace. That's ongoing. The next part of that really is to think about, there's two different ways. One, to think about different types of analytics. So one of those will be around performance analytics and then productivity analytics. But at the side of that is also a strategy around dynamic policy, which will tie to analytics. So, there's lots and lots of enforcement points, decision points within the construct of the workspace. So being able to bring those into analytics so that we can actually make closed loop decisions. So, if this alarm gets triggered, then we can go and apply a policy. And the idea of that really is to make that whole world more dynamic, because in the way that we see the user experience changing in general in terms of who it is accessing what from where and how and why, you can't do that with static policy. So the next piece of the analytics is to tie that to our dynamic policy framework.
And you're helping your customers and partners achieving that, because it sounds pretty complicated to set up all those rules.
Yeah, it's you can think of it a little bit like conditional access, although it's very different because obviously it's tied to analytics versus just a user action. Obviously it's a huge undertaking because it changes the game significantly in the way that policies were kind of always employed within the different parts of a Citrix infrastructure or a bigger infrastructure. So, looking out a little bit in terms of what we're trying to do, bringing in different types of analytics from Microsoft, Cisco, that's kind of part of the bigger picture so that we can, operate at different layers of the stack and integrate where we see our key technology partners and helping drive some of the real tangible analytics through those relationships too. Well, I think first of all, it doesn't get any bigger as a verification of our cloud strategy than having Microsoft do what they did. So, the Windows Virtual Desktop that they announced, I think that was always going to happen based on the Microsoft strategy of wanting to draw people to Azure. So, which is perfectly fine, because other cloud vendors have that. AWS being probably the most noticeable with workspaces. So, I think it helps verify our cloud strategy. We continue to work very closely with Microsoft as we've always done. And if you think about it, historically there have been options for on-premises that are Microsoft offerings that are good enough for certain use cases, and I think that will continue to be the case. We'll look to build, the embrace and extend strategy we've kind of always had. We'll look to do that within Azure, and of course we announced the Citrix Managed Virtual Desktop and the ability for us to resell Office 365 and Microsoft 365. So I think that's a huge step for both companies.
Okay, the next big event here is probably Synergy again, next year. Can we expect something from you in the next couple of months and in the beginning of 2019?
Yeah, absolutely. We have, so there's kind of three things in the Citrix calendar. We have our industry analyst meeting coming up in November, so we'll be revealing some of our strategy for next year and beyond there. That's secretly called the Big Four at the moment, so you can imagine how many big announcements there are in that. And then we have the Summit, which is our partner and employee conference, which will be in January, so we'll of course double down on some of the announcements there. And then at Synergy, I think that will be the coming out party of some of the sort of the real key elements of the Big Four, which I think will certainly cause the industry to look at Citrix in a very different way.